It's time. The 16th Beijing Tokyo Forum begins now. Guests from the China and Japan, I would like to thank you for your attendance. We have not overcome the COVID-19, and we see continued spread of COVID in Japan. That's why we have a special online, offline Tokyo-Beijing forum. We had never disrupted this forum, and this time is no exception. Around the globe, we see the continued spread of COVID-19. The inside visionary personnel from China and Japan will sit down to engage in discussion. Kudo from MPO. I'm very glad to be the moderator. In Japan, I will introduce the guests from Japanese side. First, we have Mr. Fukuda, the former Prime Minister of Japan, Mr. Fukuda. And we have Mr. Akashi. He's the former Secretary General of the UN. He is also the Vice President of the Organizing Committee, and also we have the Vice Chair, and that is Mr. Seng Haosheng. And from Entity Digital Company, is he here? And the former Defense Minister, Mr. Kishida, and Mr. from the bank, and Mr. Kawano, former Chief of Staff, and the former Foreign Minister, Ms. Kishida, will also be here. We have representatives from economics, politics, health, and defense sectors, in total about 50. Next, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Gao to introduce the Chinese guests. Thank you very much, Mr. Kudo. On behalf of the Chinese organizer, I would like to extend my warm welcome to all the friends in Tokyo despite this COVID-19 pandemic. Now, let me introduce the distinguished guests present in Beijing. We have the Vice Minister of the Publicity Department of CPCC, as well as the Minister of State Council Information Office, Mr. Xu Ling, Dean of Journalism School of Renmin University, former Minister of the State Council Information Office, Mr. Zhao Qizhen, and the President of the China International Publishing House, Mr. Du Zhanyuan, President and a member of the Party Committee of Science and Technology Daily, Mr. Li Ping, and the Deputy Chairman of the China Association for International Understanding, former Vice Minister of International Department of the CPPCC, Mr. Liu Hongcai, Director General of China Overseas Educated Scholars Development Fund, Mr. Cao Weizhou, Executive President of Translators Association of China, former President of CIPG, Mr. Zhou Mingwei, Executive Vice President of China-Japan Friendship Association, former Chinese Ambassador to Japan, Mr. Chen Yonghua. Member of high-end think tank academic committee of Academy of Military Sciences, former dean of U.S.-China Defense Relations Research Center, Madame Yao Yunzhu. Chief Minister, Mr. Shimizu Fumio of Japanese Embassy in China. In addition, we have representatives from the politics, economics, trade, security, digital technology, public health, and friends from the media, around 100 in total. Let's give them a big hand to show our welcome. Back to you, Mr. Fukuda. Thank you, Mr. Gao. Thank you very much for your attendance. Let's start the opening session. First, I will give the floor to Mr. Akashi to give us the opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good morning. On behalf of the Executive Committee of the 16th Tokyo-Beijing Forum, I would like to make a short remark. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here. I'm delighted to see so many influential and distinguished personnel from Japan and China participating in this forum. I'm also very pleased, and I hope that this year's Beijing Tokyo Forum will build on the past 16 years of activities and achievements and to reach a higher level. The COVID-19, which started late last year, has become the greatest challenge to the whole world, which has a severe impact on the political, economic, and social aspects. And the first victim of the COVID, China, which had successfully contained the COVID, which started in Wuhan. That is a great achievement. I sincerely congratulate China for your success. I also look forward to exchange views and to learn the valuable experience from China. At present, US and we were very concerned during the US presidential election, and now the curtain has dropped, and we could rest assured to look forward to the emergence of a cooperative multilateral international relations. For Japan, China is our neighbor in Asia. For thousands of years, we have learned from China. However, since the recent history, the actions took by Japan need to be deeply reflected, and we should never forget that. Fortunately, since 1972, the two countries have restored diplomatic relations and started to build a trusty relationship. We have been working together since then. Over the last few years, Chinese economy has been growing strongly, and China has set new targets, and Japan is determined to strengthen its friendly relation with China. On the other hand, we have to recognize that China's military activities in the East China Sea has made us quite uncomfortable, and there are different opinions in the media. That means we need to engage in candid discussions and to explore how to build a peaceful and stable relations from the perspective of the experts, and to engage in frank and sober dialogue among everyone concerned, including journalists, intellectuals, and experts, so that we could be prepared for long-term stability. This forum will cover both old and new topics, including political diplomacy, security, economics, and media, as well as new topics, including the future of digital technology, as well as how to contain COVID-19. It's my hope that through this valuable platform, we could pool the ideas and exchange different views. I hope that we could have active discussion. On top of the ideas and the recommendations and insights shared by all the experts, by the end of tomorrow, we could reach a consensus in writing. I look forward to your full support. I can see that in this confrontation between US and China, we don't need to pick a side. We should build a new international order based on the rules. I hope that experts from both sides could engage in candid discussions that keep away from conflicts, and let's work together to build a peaceful and secure Asia. Let's make the step forward from this forum. That concludes my presentation, my opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Tokyo meeting room. Thank you very much for your fascinating speech, Mr. Yasuo Akashi. Now let's give the floor to Mr. Du Zhenyuan, President of CIPG, from China side organizer. Let's welcome Mr. Du. respected Mr. Yasuo Fukuda, former Japanese Prime Minister, and Mr. Yasushi Akashi, respected Vice Minister of Publicity Department CPCCC, Mr. Xu Ling, and Mr. Zhao Qizhen. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, good morning. Today, we are hosting the 16th Beijing Tokyo Forum live video link. I think this is the first time in the history of the forum. Although the COVID-19 has made it impossible for both sides to gather together in the same room, but this year we have record high number of online participants, which fully reflect the strong belief and enthusiasm of our guests in promoting the healthy development of China-Japan relations. First of all, on behalf of Chinese organizer, China International Publishing Group, CIPG, I would like to express our warm welcome to all the guests. And also, extend our highest appreciation to governmental authorities from both sides for their support and guidance of the forum. We also would like to express our heartfelt thanks to the General MP of Japan for their efforts in organizing this forum. At present, the world is evolving rapidly with unprecedented changes that's unseen in the past century. The COVID-19 pandemic poses serious threat to human health and safety, and all this bring more instability and uncertainty to the profound, complex, and changing international landscape. However, China, Japan, and even in East Asia are showing very positive changes. First of all, in October this year, the first plenary session of the 19th Central Committee of Communist Party of China was held, which launched a new journey for China to build a modern socialist country in all round ways. So on several important occasions, President Xi Jinping has stressed his commitment to expanding the opening up process, building a high-level open economy, and building a community of shared futures for all. China is firmly determined to expand its opening up to the outside world. And its strong resilience, great potential for social and economic development will certainly create more development opportunities to countries in the world, including Japan. Second, China-Japan relations are back on track and gaining momentum. As a new government is inaugurated in Japan, President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Suga reached an important consensus on promoting new progress in the relations of two countries and jointly addressing global challenges. A few days ago, China's State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang paid an official visit to Japan, where the two sides achieved a number of positive results in areas such as fight against COVID-19 cooperation, economic and trade cooperation, risk management, people-to-people exchanges, and green development. This year, the two societies started a wave of mutual support around fighting against the pandemic, showing the touching spirit of land apart, sky shared. All this fully demonstrated the sincere desire of two peoples to strengthen friendship and cooperation. Third, the signing of Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, RCEP, has been signed, and it has opened up a broader space for China-Japan to deepen more cooperation in economic and trade. So China-Japan, as the world's second and third largest economies, we have the responsibility, capability, and opportunity to make contributions, to make positive contributions to the prosperity of Asia as well as the world. Ladies, gentlemen, friends, As the largest people-to-people exchange platform between China and Japan, this year's forum is seen as post-pandemic international order, what roles for China-Japan. We are aiming at discussing how to implement the important consensus reached by the two leaders for our two countries, promoting China-Japan to work together to address common opportunity challenges, as well as answering the questions of what is happening in the world and what we can do from the perspective of China-Japan relations. And this forum will continue to contribute to the continued improvement of relationship between two countries and joint maintenance and development of the international order and system. I sincerely hope that all the distinguished guests attending this forum, with their firm beliefs, profound knowledge, and vision, can actively make suggestions and advices with their wisdom so that two societies will be full of confidence and expectation for the future of China-Japan relations in the new era. I also hope that China-Japan cooperation will bring inspiration to the world and fostering new opportunities for win-win China-Japan cooperation out of the crisis, opening new chapters of China-Japan friendship amidst all these changes, and make new and greater contributions. Lastly, wish the complete success of this forum. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Du. Now, from Japan side, we will have the speech. And this is our Supreme Advisor and former Japanese Prime Minister, Mr. Yasuo Fukuda. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Xu Ling, the Minister of State Councilor Information Office of China, and Mr. Zhao Qizhen, is also the former Minister of State Council Information Office of China, and as well as all the friends attending this forum. Although we are wearing, I see that you are wearing masks to join this forum. I still would say that successful convening of 16th Tokyo-Beijing Forum is very delightful. The pandemic seems to have been well contained, but the COVID-19 is still spreading around the world. That's why we are having this forum both online and offline. But nevertheless, in the past 16 years, the forum has never been stopped or interrupted, no matter what has happened. And regardless of all the difficulties, that the forum has been continued and meaningful dialogues have been taking place. I'd like to express my heartfelt respect to all the people who are making this happen. All right, now, the global situation is in a friction and has started to make some noises, and such friction is getting bigger and bigger. A position to dissatisfaction with globalization from the United States and Europe is growing. And we also have heard lots of the unilateralism and protectionism from United States. So after this presidency election in the United States, we think that Mr. Biden would be the president-elect. But even so, that countries are still in the landscape of division, and this may continue. We would say that in the past, the United States has led the world for the past century. It has been a true leader of international order. And it also has great influence and impact to the world. And that also means they are taking great responsibility and burdens. So to establishing the rules and apply it. And for those who are violates the international rules should be punished. And only by doing so, the world economy can be developed and peace can be kept. And this also, by doing so, it's also substantial financial burden. I think like many people, I believe the US is also having world leader fatigue syndrome. I think that many Americans feel that under the current international order, United States it's costing too much for United States, more than what it takes. But this is a harsh reality that United States was confronted. So United States thinks that China's rise is a harsh reality. But you may not be aware of it, but the impact of China's rise on the world and the international system has been huge. And China has 4 times population of that of the United States. In just 4 decades, in nominal terms of RMB, the GDP of China has multiplied by more than 220 times and is closing to that of the United States. So as a matter of fact, the rapid growth of China's GDP is tremendous and shocking. So the past predictions estimated that the economic power between the US and China would start to reverse between 2030 and 2040 at the earliest. However, China's rapid and steady economic growth is out of everyone's expectation. The US economic stagnation caused by this year's global pandemic of COVID-19, but the strength of China's economic is rapidly recovered. Therefore, it is expected that by the second half of 2020, specifically between 2027 or 2028, that China's GDP in dollar terms will equal to that of US. And there are many experts who have already showed this kind of views for the economic forecasting. And US and China are now firmly embedded together in a globalized economy. China's economy is becoming the manufacturer of the world, or the world factory. Moreover, although China's military power still lags behind that of the United States, but it is gradually closing the gap between the 2 countries. And in addition, we understand that international security, space, internet, data, environment, international financial system, economic cooperation, and the maintenance of international systems. So we are thinking that maintaining it as an international public good. And I think that China is playing an increasingly important role alongside the United States. China, with a vast land area and a 1.4 billion population, is a highly stable country. And although it may face various problems, difficult in the future, such as the bubble economic collapse and natural disasters, but it is likely to continue to develop further towards a superpower in the long run. It is very high likely, that is to say, in the eyes of the United States, the 21st century China is a huge sustainable superpower, much stronger comparing to that of Soviet Union and Japan of second half of the 20th century. And it's an adversary of the United States. About that, United States government and American people have already begun to realize this fact in recent years. And especially in recent years, that many countries like the United States and its allies are having the China threat.
Even if China is a mature democracy, it's expected that confrontation and tension between the US and China will certainly be the case once China's national power comes to equal that of the US. We can safely make such forecasts. The changes in economic powers of the US and China does not mean a shift in the relationship in terms of overall national power, including the military power, but rather that US will continue to occupy and remain to be the world leader, but symbolically, so to speak, the U.S. international will be shocked by the growth of China. For U.S. and international community, including Japan, how to face such a kind of rising tension between the U.S. and China. People say that wise man learns from history. The relationship between the superpower US and the emerging power China, we can say as the relationship between Sparta and Athens, a modern day version of the Thucydides trap. This has been a popular saying. In 2015, President Obama met with the Chinese President Xi at that time. President Obama mentioned the Thucydides trap. At that time, Sparta was a great power. It wanted to maintain the status quo. However, Athens, a rising maritime power, they wanted to play its part in gaining position with its growing power. They didn't want to engage in a war, but ultimately they had a long-lasting war. That was a historical fact, well known to many of us. And one consistent theme throughout the event is that the anxious of the existing superpower, Sparta, and the hubris of the emerging power, Athens. That's a weakness of human that have made the confrontation and the war between the two countries inevitable and fatal in Japan in the last 3 decades. From the 1930s to 1940s, Japan also encountered similar issues, such kind of hubris or anxiety is quite stupid. The emerging China will continue to grow, to contain and China's growth is impossible. China will one day be mature. The U.S. will continue to look forward, but its position as a world leader will remain unchallenged for a long time. In the first few years of Biden administration, there were a lot of speculations. We hope there could be a smooth transition, and ultimately, we will see a stable relationship between U.S. and China. But how to address this issue in the next decade, we need to do the following. Number one, the political leaders in the world need to be committed to keep the peace at all costs. Last September, there was a video which has raised a lot of discussion that shows the horrors of nuclear war. There is a nuclear war between US and Russia. It would be catastrophic. The video was produced by Professor Frank Van Hippel of the Princeton University. You can watch it in YouTube. Japan experienced Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's not difficult to imagine the disastrous consequence of a nuclear war. But for Westerners, it's have no idea. That's why it has such a big reaction. We should not forget that a conflict between great powers could lead to a nuclear war. Secondly, I would like to urge the world leaders to act strongly with an even stronger conviction that protecting, reinforcing the developing current international order is the right choice for the international community. Following the World War I and World War II, which has caused unprecedented human catastrophes, we finally built the current international order. Humanity has not come up with a better order. Japan and China are the two countries that benefited the most from it, and that is our natural duty to protect and develop it. America and Europe, the founders and promoters of this international order, they are dissatisfied with the structures and the rules. Developing countries are also dissatisfied. The time has come to develop and strengthen the current international order involving all countries. Japan and China should be in the forefront, working together and work with the US, with the Biden administration. US may be more active in this regard. I believe more collaboration in this area will have a positive effect on the US-China relationship. Thirdly, it's important for both the US and China to learn each other better, to learn more about respective countries, society, and people's ideas, beliefs, ways of thinking, and how do they make decisions throughout history. Large-scale conflicts, disputes, and wars were the result of communication gaps, misunderstandings, due to the fact that they do not know the other side, the way of thinking, and how do they make decisions to know about their domestic politics. We need to study more and have more comprehensive understanding. China and the US, we are long-lasting neighbors, and we have a very profound relation with the US. Japan could offer some help in this regard. The Tokyo-Beijing Forum has been closely following the world developments, and we have been discussing what kind of role we could play. In this sixth forum, we should further consider what can we do for the world. The US-China relation has witnessed changes which had a big impact on the whole world. COVID-19 is continuing to spread in the world. There are more uncertainties, and with the new administration in US, we should take that as an opportunity to contribute our wisdom to maintain world peace. We need to engage with the US. As I said earlier, in addition to strengthening international order, there are environmental issues and pandemic issue. All these need to be tackled. There are many areas where US, Japan, and China can cooperate. Through such cooperation, we can expand our common interests and deepen mutual understanding, which is desirable not only for US-China relations, but also for the world. The current US-China relationship, which to a certain extent could apply to China-Japan relations. Again, the lack of trust makes it very difficult to improve the situation. Without a certain level of mutual trust, we cannot move forward. For the US and China, the worsening mutual trust is worthy our study. What are the root causes? We need to engage in dialogue to mitigate such kind of mistrust. President Xi Jinping said that those who could prepare for danger in times of safety and thus win over the devil inside. That means that we should listen to the opinions of others, reflect on ourselves, and have the ability to control ourselves. These words should also be offered to President Trump. We should find a way out from the Thucydides trap. Of course, that is the main issue for US and China. We need to restore the relationship, to manage the anxiety and the hubris. And Japan could provide support in many aspects. Japan is one of the few countries that understand the US and China relatively well and has a solid channel for dialogue with both US and China. So we should not sit idle, and we should actively help to mediate the result of recent Sino-Japan public opinion survey. And we can see Chinese side remain unchanged. The Japanese side, the response, we see a deteriorating views. Many respondents in Japan say they had a bad impression of China. I feel that we still have a strong foundation for the China-US relations. We need to engage people-to-people exchanges, direct interaction, the dialogue could promote mutual understanding and mutual trust. We need to engage in more extensive people-to-people exchanges. And last October, we set up this NPO. I hope that we could work to improve the China-Japan relations. I hope this forum could come up with constructive proposals to deepen mutual understanding among the two peoples. I hope the 16th Tokyo-Beijing Forum will make positive and constructive proposals for the future relations between the two countries and take a step forward and thereby to make a contribution to the world. I'm convinced that this forum will be a complete success. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Fukuda, for your excellent presentation. For a long time, the Information Office of State Council has given us full support. And the director from Information Office, Xu Ling, he is the director for the guiding committee. From Chinese side, let's give the floor to Mr. Xu to deliver a keynote speech. Your Excellency, former Prime Minister Mr. Fukuda, Your Excellency Mr. Nikai, Mr. Kishida, Mr. Zhao Qizhen, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends, good morning. It's a great pleasure to meet with the old and the new friends to attend the 16th Beijing Tokyo Forum, which is hosted by the China Foreign Language Publishing House and MPO. On behalf of the Information Office of State Council of China, I would like to extend a warm welcome to you all and to warmly congratulate our friends on the convening of this forum over the past 16 years as an important platform for high-level exchange between China and Japan. The Beijing Tokyo Forum has brought together people with vision who have made significant contributions to enhancing the people-to-people exchanges and helped to improve and develop the bilateral ties. At present, as the COVID-19 pandemic is still spreading around the world, we are holding the forum as scheduled by combining online and offline means It reflects the sincere desire from both sides to further communication and enhance understanding. I hope that guests from both sides will freely express their views, engage in frank exchanges, and actively contribute to the continuous improvement of China-Japan relations.
In June last year, the leaders of China and Japan met, and two sides agreed to work together to build a Sino-Japanese relationship that met the requirement of new era and reached a 10-point consensus, which set the tone for the Sino-Japanese relationship in the new era. In September this year, when President Xi Jinping was talked on the phone with Prime Minister Suga, he stressed that China and Japan are important neighbors and partners, both being very important countries in Asia and the world. And there are extensive common interests and a broad room for cooperation. And it is essential for the new era to benefit and better the well-being of the two peoples. China and Japan should work together to respond to various global challenges and make positive contribution to the prosperity and development of Asia. Not long ago, State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang paid a successful visit to Japan. The two sides has talked on many issues, frank discussions and communications on China-Japan relations and international as well as regional issues of common concern, and reached 5 important consensus and 6 concrete outcomes. We are willing to work together with Japan, follow strategic direction outlined by the two leaders, uphold 4 political documents, and adhere to the spirit of cooperation partners and posing no threat to each other, so that we can enhance mutual trust and strive to build a China-Japan relations fitting the new era. Not long ago, the 5th Plenary Session of the 19th Central Committee of CPC made a comprehensive plan for the 14th five-year plan period, with the goal of basically realizing the socialist modernization by 2035. So China's goal of building moderately prosperous society in all aspects as scheduled, it will happen. And so we start a new journey of building socialist and modern country. We'll take the global landscape, firmly implement new development concept, and to build a new development pattern featuring dual circulation strategy. China is committed to opening up to the outside world at a high level and opening up new prospects for win-win cooperation. Under this new situation, China is willing to work together with Japan to take a broader vision and take more effective actions, shoulder responsibilities in a wider range of areas, and actively promote cooperation so that China-Japan relations can better benefit the two peoples and international community. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, at present, the world is undergoing major changes unseen in a century. The COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the evolution of international situation. Unilateralism and protectionism are on the rise. The international structure has undergone profound adjustment, and uncertainties and factors have significantly increased. In this context, how to promote continued development of bilateral relations on the right track and build Sino-Japanese relations that meet the requirement of new era is a proposition worthy of our thinking. In this regard, I would like to share with you 3 thoughts. First, the more complex and severe the situation is, the more we must recognize the general trend of the times and plan China-Japan relations in a new era with the view of community of shared future for mankind. At present, global issues such as COVID have brought unprecedented challenges. We are all in the same boat, and our interests are intertwined. No country can stay out of this crisis. And only by joining hands can we tackle the common challenge of mankind. We need to take a global view and think about driven bilateral ties forward with a view of community of shared future for mankind, and actively build a new pattern of cooperation on the basis of mutual benefit and a win-win. Seek a common ground while resolving differences and push the relationship between the two countries to move forward on the right track. Second, the more uncertainty there are, the more we must share the responsibility to promote a positive interaction between China and Japan in the new era. The pandemic has had a tremendous impact on the world economy, and the future is full of uncertainties. Despite the contradictions and differences between China and Japan, but the two countries have more common interests and face more common challenges. The two countries are major economies in the world and important countries in the region. We have a huge responsibility to fight the pandemic and put the world back on track. The two countries should work together, deal with sensitive issues between us, and manage the differences, and make our relationship as stable as possible to add some certainty to an uncertain world. Third, as unilateralism and protectionism are on the rise, the more we should expand our common interests and add impetus to China-Japan relationship in the new era. COVID-19 has disrupted global industrial and supply chain. The unilateralism and the protectionism have increasingly weakened global governance. China and Japan are important countries in Asia and the world. We have the responsibility to jointly maintain an open world economy and international cooperation system. China has a vast market and resilient economy, and we each enjoy complementary advantages. So both sides should further deepen cooperation and innovation, expand a common interest, realistics, and so that we can work together to promote a stable and long-term China-Japan relations. Ladies, gentlemen, friends, building a China-Japan relation that meets the requirement of new era requires us to broaden our horizons, build consensus, and move forward together. Therefore, I'd like to offer 5 suggestions. First, enhance political mutual trust and consolidate the foundation for the development of bilateral relations. Facing the complex and profound changes in international arena, how to maintain a positive momentum of China-Japan relations requires both sides to make correct political assessments. The two sides should strengthen new discoveries and new thinkings about the intrinsic value of the relationship between our two countries. View the bilateral relations from global and regional perspective. See the strategic significance and continue to enrich the connotation of Sino-Japan relations in new era. In building constructive security relationship between two countries, we need to effectively transform the political consensus of be cooperative partners and not pose a threat to each other into broader consensus of the two peoples, so that we can translate that in the specific policies and also can reach broader consensus among people and continuously to enhance mutual trust. Second, enhance anti-pandemic cooperation and jointly build a community of human health. Currently, COVID-19 is still raging around the world. As we know that virus knows no border, solidarity and cooperation are the most powerful weapons to fight the pandemic. So from the perspective of building community with a shared future for mankind, China is committed to the safety and health of its people and to the global public health. China has already joined the COVAX to actively support and participate in international vaccine cooperation and strive to make vaccine a global public product that is accessible and affordable to people for all. China and Japan should continue to work together to fight the pandemic, exchange information in a timely manner, carry out cooperations in medical and pharmaceuticals, and maintain the health of people of two sides, promote global pandemic prevention and response, and jointly build a community of human health. Third, continue to persist in expanding the opening up and engage in high-level mutual beneficial cooperation. China-Japan economic trade cooperation has grown despite the pandemic. It's showing strong resilience and great potential. China is building a new development pattern and firmly implementing a wider, broader, and deeper opening up to the outside world. It will bring new opportunities for China-Japan cooperation. We must join hands to have joint response to the pandemic and economic recovery, to upgrade our economic cooperation, and seize opportunities of new round of technological revolution and industrial transformation, and promote the development of both sides, expand cooperation in digital economy, e-commerce, smart cities, energy conservation, environmental protection, medical and healthcare, as well as third markets. Fourth, promote people-to-people and cultural exchanges, and cultivate the soil for friendship between the two countries. The organizer of this forum has organized a public survey of Sino-Japanese relationship public opinion survey. It showed that people of two countries have different perceptions of the current status of our relations. And just now, Mr. Fukuda has already mentioned this. And in the meantime, that both people, they are having expectations for more extensive peaceful cooperation in the future. So from this perspective of promoting cultural exchange and mutual learning, we must continue to do more to increase mutual understanding and friendship. So little by little and step by step, we continue to promote people-to-people and cultural exchanges. The State Council Information Office is willing to work together with Japan to continue to encourage more think tanks and media exchanges of the two countries to conduct exchanges and play a good role in guiding public opinion, helping our two people to have a deeper and comprehensive understanding of each other, and continue to improve and consolidate the friendship between the two countries. Fifth, pursue mutual benefit and win-win results and jointly build an open world economy. At present, economic globalization is facing setbacks. The epidemic has pushed a global economic governance into a crucial turning period. In the middle of this month, the signing of RCEP, showing that multilateralism and free trade are still popular and welcomed. So China and Japan, as second and third largest economy in the world, should focus on the post-pandemic era, strengthening communication, coordination and cooperation, adhere to the global governance concepts of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefit, firmly defend multilateralism, and uphold foundation of World Trade Organization multilateral trading system, oppose the abuse of national security in the name of protectionism, lead the process of regional cooperation and economic integration in Asia, and we should work together to build an open world economy and contribute to a globalization of more sustainable, open, inclusive, and win-win. Ladies, gentlemen, and friends, currently, the pandemic is still spreading. The global governance system is facing new challenges. But we believe that the winter will ultimately be behind us, and the spring will ultimately come. China is willing to work with countries in the world, including Japan, to identify new potentials, create new opportunities in the course of opening up, and tackle problems through cooperation, and work together to create a better tomorrow for mankind. Finally, I wish the 16th Beijing Tokyo Forum a complete success. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Xu Ling, for your excellent remarks. Since we started the Tokyo-Beijing Forum, we have got great support from the Foreign Ministry and the embassies last year. Foreign Minister Wang attended the forum and made a speech. We know that he recently visited Japan, which was very fruitful. He sent us a video. Let's look at it. Distinguished guests and friends, I'm very glad to be invited to attend the opening ceremony of the 16th Beijing Tokyo Forum. I've just finished my visit to Japan and South Korea and returned to Beijing. I'm currently undergoing quarantine. Please allow me to express my sincere greetings to friends from all walks of life in Japan and China via video. During my visit to Japan, both China and Japan confirmed that we will follow the spirit of the important consensus of the leaders of the two countries, face the future and firmly build Sino-Japanese relations that meet the requirements of the new era. At the same time, the two sides also believe two countries should fulfill their international responsibilities, work together to face the challenges and make a positive contribution to promote regional and world peace, stability, and development. We also reached the 5 consensus and 6 concrete deliverables. I'm pleased to know that the fast track for personnel exchange between the two countries is officially open today. I believe this will provide important support for resuming the work and the production. Dear friends, the sudden outbreak has made the countries around the world deeply feel that the mankind is a community with a shared future that has once again demonstrated the traditional friendship between China and Japan. There is an older saying that you see the truth in adversity. We will never forget at the beginning of the outbreak, Japanese officials and people from all walks of life actively donated epidemic prevention materials. Lands apart, skies shared. This kind of words written on medical supplies greatly warmed the hearts for those fighting the virus. Come on, Wuhan, come on, China. This heartfelt support, encouragement have given courage and confidence to the people fighting the epidemic. I believe Japanese friends also remember that after the outbreak of epidemic in Japan, the Chinese people felt the same way. And although separated, we will deliver the materials, PPEs to Japan. And we also recall the solidarity between China and Japan, and also during the 2011 earthquake, we helped and supported each other. And we will always remember how important it is to have a good neighbor. And we are grateful for those people in the two countries who have quietly dedicated themselves to the friendship between China and Japan. Dear friends, people-to-people friendship has always been an important cornerstone of the development of Sino-Japan relations. According to the public opinion survey conducted by the forum this year, the people's favorable views of Japan has continued to rise, reaching 45%, while the Japanese favorable views of China has dropped to a new low to around 10%. Regardless of the accuracy of this survey, the contrast between the sentiments of the two countries is a fact that we need to take it seriously. In my view, that is a bit concerning. Both China and Japan share broad common interests, but there are also some differences which need to be properly handled. For the common interests, we need to expand and promote the common interest to build it as solid bridges and ties between the two countries. Regarding differences and sensitive issues, we should put them in appropriate positions and effectively and constructively manage it. On issues related to each other's internal affairs, we must adhere to mutual respect and embody understanding and tolerance as close neighbors. The Chinese government and the various departments are making unremitting efforts to this end. I hope that the Japanese government and the competent departments can adopt the same approach. Dear friends, we are living in a new era of informatization and intelligence. The public and social media play an important role in the mutual recognition and interaction of people of the two countries, and they also bear special responsibilities. I would like to make a few suggestions. Number one, we should pursue the truth. While informatization brings rapid and convenient dissemination, it also creates challenges such as fake news, alternative facts, information gaps, and the media of the two countries should not deliberately cater their reporting to their domestic audiences, but should show the true picture in full. Frankly speaking, some Japanese people's perception of China is a little bit biased. The day China has won the battle against absolute poverty through the nationwide efforts, and we are building an ecological civilization with new development concepts resolutely following the path of green, low carbon, and sustainable development. The political conduct has been improved. Independent surveys conducted by multiple international organizations show that the Chinese people's satisfaction with the party and the government has been above 90 for many years. These facts should also be objectively presented by Japanese media. Number two is to convey goodwill. Peace is most valuable, and humanities are the most moral creeds that the two peoples have followed since ancient times. Then they should also be the journalistic ethics the media of the two people should pursue. The media as a social tool affects whether the people of the two countries can live in peace and be friendly for generations. China and Japan have different social systems and different media reporting concepts. We should overcome these differences and adopt a more tolerant and friendly attitude to promote the two peoples to better understand each other. Number three is to create a future together. The world is going changes unseen in a century. The media of the two countries should think about how to make the world a better place, how to bring the people closer instead of alienating each other. Asia, where China and Japan are located, has become the most dynamic region in the world. And we are committed to build a community of shared future for joint development. I hope that the media of the two countries will look forward to the future, gather the positive energy, and showcase a new vision of Asia and the world. Friends, when we pursue benefit, we should focus on benefiting the whole world. This is a saying often quoted by both countries, reflecting the broad-mindedness of people of insight in both countries to take responsibility for the world and uphold history. The forum of this year will focus on the international order post the pandemic and the role of China and Japan. I sincerely look forward to seeing friends from all walks of life at the forum to engage in candid exchanges, actively advise and consolidate consensus for the healthy and stable development of Sino-Japanese relations in the post-pandemic period. I wish a full success of this forum. Thank you. Next, let's invite speaker from Japan, Mr. Motegi, the Foreign Minister, had planned to be here in person, and due to the COVID, he's not able to come to join us in the venue. We will have a video link to show his remarks. And we will have someone to read out his message. On the occasion of the 16th Tokyo-Beijing Forum, I would like to read out the speech on behalf of our Foreign Minister. On the occasion of the 16th Tokyo-Beijing Forum, I would like to extend my sincere greetings as a framework for dialogue between Japan and China. The forum has been held every year without disruption, even despite COVID-19. It shows the strong will of the people in both countries that have been committed to dialogue. I would like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to your tireless efforts. Last week, I had a meeting with the Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang. During our talks, we reaffirmed the stable relations between Japan and China are vital to the region and international community. And Japan and China are both responsible powers committed to and contributing to the solution of the world's many issues, which will contribute to further strengthening the friendship between Japan and China. In addition, the two sides had a frank exchange of views on the various outstanding issues in Japan and China. Prior to each forum, public opinion surveys will be conducted in Japan and China. The results of this year's survey show that the sentiment between two countries, which have been improving since 2017, has stagnated or even receded this year. I believe this is related to various unresolved issues, such as the actions of Chinese officials' vessels around the Diaoyu Island. Despite these unresolved issues, it's necessary to properly address these issues through high-level dialogue. At the recent Japan-China Foreign Ministers meeting, I conveyed to Chinese side our strong concern about the recent situation in the East China Sea, including the waters around the Diaoyu Islands, and asked the Chinese side not to take such actions. With regard to Hong Kong, I also expressed Japan's concern about recent developments and the importance of democracy and the stable development of a free and open Hong Kong and the principle of one country, two systems. This year, the spread of COVID has affected exchanges between Japan and China. Encouragingly, however, there are many instances of mutual help and assistance between the two countries. We see new forms of exchange emerging. For example, Chinese university students visiting Japan last year through the Japan Ministry of Foreign Affairs program sent short warm videos to Japan, and the Japanese university students also interacted with them via videos. Of course, it's important to visit each other. Countries learn from each other's culture and have a face-to-face exchanges to deepen mutual understanding. At the recent foreign ministers meeting, the two sides agreed on people-to-people exchanges between the two countries and the launch of a fast-track system for business travelers. I believe it will help to promote the exchanges. At the recent foreign ministers meeting, we also discussed the promotion of economic and practical cooperation. In light of the 10th anniversary of the Great East Tohoku Japan earthquake next March, I once again strongly urge China to lift import restrictions on Japanese food products as soon as possible. I'm committed to building a truly fair, just, and stable business environment and to promote further cooperation in the areas of people-to-people contact, tourism, environment, and energy conservation. In 2 years, we will host the Tokyo Olympics and the Paralympics Games next summer, and the Beijing Olympic and the Paralympic Games the following winter. The year after, we will mark the 50th anniversary of normalization of the diplomatic ties between China and Japan. I hope to take advantage of these opportunities to promote exchanges between the youth of the two countries and culture and sports exchanges and promote the medium and long-term development of China-Japan relations. In closing, I wish the forum a great success and a flourishing relationship between Japan and China. Thank you all. Thank you. And finally, we have invited a special guest, Mr. Nikai, and he also sent us a congratulatory message through video. I'm Nikai, Secretary General of Liberal Democratic Party. Distinguished guests, I would first like to congratulate you on the 16th Tokyo-Beijing Forum.
I would say that under all these difficulties and challenges, that you have made lots of hard work and preparation in spite of the difficult circumstances to convene this forum. Therefore, I'd like to express my heartfelt respect to the General NPO of Japan and China International Publishing Group. Thank you. In September this year, Prime Minister Suga and President Xi held the first telephone conversation between the Japanese and Chinese leaders since Suga took office. Last week, State Councilor and Minister of Foreign Affairs Wang visited Japan, and I had a frank exchange of views with him for the first time in many years. The stable relationship between China and Japan is extremely important, not only for the two countries, but also very important for the region and international community. And we'd like to be responsible. Although there are many difficult issues between China and Japan, but regardless what kind of circumstances, it's necessary to continue the dialogue and exchanges between the two of our countries. I understand that there are lots of panel discussions during this forum that will cover very important topics like COVID-19 convergence, economic reception, destabilizing COVID-19 situation in the world, and what's the roles and responsibilities of Japan and China. I expect that the discussions between the two country experts will be meaningful in promoting mutual understanding. Last week, State Councilor Wang visited Japan. So during that, we agreed to start a business fast track between China and Japan. I hope that the two countries will win the battle against COVID-19 together. And in next year, Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics, as well as Winter Olympics and the Paralympics in Beijing the year after next, will mark the most important milestones. And I also hope that all this can promote more exchanges between our people. Lastly, I'd like to conclude with my sincere wishes for the success of this forum and the continued development of China-Japan relations. Thank you. Thank you. That's the end of our opening ceremony. Now let's enter into the plenary meeting. We have some changes, adjustments on our schedule. Let's take a short break. So from Japanese time, 11 a.m., which also the 10 a.m. of Beijing time. Let's start at 10 a.m. Beijing and 11 a.m. Tokyo. Let's take a short break. Thank you.
各位领导，各位领导，各位来宾，我们开幕式的时间拖延10分钟，所以呢，我们全体会议开始的时间是10点整。全体会议开始的时间10点整，请大家稍作休息，再回到会场。谢谢大家。
Friends in the Tokyo meeting room, our broadcast sessions will start very soon. Mr. Miyamoto, Mr. Kishida, and Mr. Kawano, please sit on the stage. Thank you.
领导、各位来宾，现在全体会议的时间已经到了。
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to start our plenary meeting. Please take your seat. Thank you.
各位领导、各位来宾，
Ladies and gentlemen,
大家就坐。
House announcement, please take seat. We will start very soon. Thank you. Wait a second, please. Okay. Let's start our plenary meeting. Thank you everyone for your participation. And actually, we are not only having Japanese and Chinese speech, but also our event is broadcasted toward globally through English as well. So Mr. Fumio Kishida, member of House of Representatives, former Foreign Minister, and also Mr. Tamaki. And lastly, we also have Mr. Kawano, former Joint Staff. Then Mr. Miyamoto is the moderator of Japanese side. So let's give the floor to Chinese side. Okay, can you hear me? So from Chinese side, we also have 4 people attending this discussion. We are all old friends. I am Zhao Qizhen. This is my 16th time to join this forum. Then we have Mr. Chen Yonghua, the former Chinese ambassador to Japan. And Yao Jingyuan, Mr. Yao Jingyuan is a chief economist, and Ms. Yao Yunzhu, member of High and Think Tank Academic Committee of Academy of Military Sciences. So, okay, then let's give you opinions one by one. Okay, well, I am Miyamoto. I'm the moderator from Japanese side. Mr. Zhao, I wonder whether we have met before, and today we have 3 subtopics. The first one is what's the direction of the world going for? Second is, so what kind of world we need to build post-COVID? Third, China, Japan, what kind of roles and collaboration we can have for the world? So for these 3 questions, let's discuss one by one. Do you think it's okay? Sure, that sounds good. Thank you. Okay, and let's follow that order. This meeting is actually So, okay, the theme of our plenary session is how to respond to the impact of global changes, COVID-19. So the first sub-theme is what direction the world is going forward. How should we treat this kind of direction and what we can do? So let's have the Japanese representative speak first, then followed by a Chinese side, so one by one. Okay, Kishida. Thank you, everyone. So regarding the question of what direction the world is heading forward, so from my perspective, in recent years, globalization is developing very rapid, but there are many divisions for the social and globalization. Many people has already pointed that, including the protectionism is rising, and also that puts one's own country into priority, and all these issues are prominently arising. But under this situation, through great power or dictation, or for the law-based, rule-based, and law-based country governance and free democraticalism, these all are our basic values. This COVID-19 pandemic is spreading across the globe, which have further actually enhanced the division we're facing as well as the challenges ahead of us. Another is about China-US competition or confrontation. United States and China are the largest and second largest economy in the world. So not only in economy, but also high tech, intellectual property, securities, and other sectors. We have so much confrontation to see between those two countries, US and China. This is a reality right now. So the confrontation between US and China is actually impacting the stability and development of international community. And that's why all the countries in the world are paying their attention to this issue and hope that those two countries can play their due roles and take their due responsibilities. That is expectation and hope of many people. That's my first response. Okay. Thank you. I hope that everyone, when you start to talk, please try to complete your speech within 4 or 5 minutes. Then I'll give the floor to Mr. Zhao from China side. Okay, we'll give the floor from China side to Mr. Chen, former Chinese ambassador to Japan. Thank you. Under these special circumstances, I can join the forum through this special way. I'm very delighted, and it's quite meaningful. And global changes are a common topic. And in all kinds of forums, discussions, this is always a topic. And besides that, the COVID-19 pandemic has speeding up the changes. I think the changes are reflected in the following areas. The first one, the World Economic Center is moving from the west to the east. Emerging market and developing countries, they are having more position in their saying. And the second, about change the pattern. Different political forces are changing. So emerging markets, developing countries are having more reasonable and legitimate sayings. Third, the change of social production. The fourth industrial revolution is still around the corner. AI's digital economies are booming, so the world economy is coming at a crucial point of the new and old the momentum changing and shifting. This COVID-19 pandemic is a catalyst, and we would say that extent and duration of the world economy downturn will largely depend on whether the epidemic can be effectively contained. So this is really rely on whether we can effectively contain the pandemic. And we can see that now the global industry supply chain is no longer depending solely on the basis of economic cost and efficiency, because the world is trend toward localization, regionalization, diversification. So in this process, the direction of US-China relation and the China state of Asia-Pacific region in the global landscape are of particularly concern. And first, the direction of Sino-US relation in the post-pandemic era. I would say that US-China relationship is quite an obvious issue in the transformation of global governance system. COVID-19 pandemic calls for the unity and cooperation among countries to fight challenges. We should have been an opportunity for China and the United States to work together, but unfortunately, it's become a catalyst. Scientific issues such as orange of virus and prevention and control policies have been artificially politicized and stigmatized. In fact, US-China cooperation is much needed in so many places. At global level, in addition to the most pressing issues of responding to pandemic and restoring the economy, there are also long-term issues such as climate change, digital economy, AI governance. And regarding the China status of Asia-Pacific region in the global landscape, my observation are as follows. In the face of sudden epidemic, East Asian countries have generally achieved good results in preventive control. And it's reflected the unique advantages of traditional East Asian culture and also has led to faster economic recovery in East Asia. But right now, we are still facing some common challenges of containing the rapid spreading of the pandemic. China, Japan, as the largest developing and developed countries in Asia, respectively, are the cornerstones and stabilizers of maintaining the prosperity and stability in Asia. So both sides should take a responsible attitude toward the future and destiny of the Asian people through strengthened cooperation. And both countries should play important roles in safeguarding Asian unity, promoting Asian revitalization, and leading the Asian economy back to the growth as soon as possible, so that we can jointly safeguard the common interests and common security of Asia and better protect the interests or benefits of people in Asia. Thank you. Okay, let's give the floor back to the Japanese side. Okay. Next, we will give the floor to Mr. Tamaki. He's the expert in economics, so I hope that he can share with us the direction of the world where we are going from the perspective of economics. Thank you. I'm Tamaki. What is the challenge that we are facing? What are the crises? I work in economics. 2008 and 2009 have seen the financial crisis internationally. So I always compare everything with financial crisis. But first of all, this is not a financial crisis, but a crisis in public health. And it poses great impact on everyone's behavior and everyone's mind and psychology. Second, everyone's behavior has been changed. So I think that the society and the world won't go back to what it were in the past, and we shouldn't go back. Third, and what's the relationship between the financial crisis and economic crisis? If without everyone to overcome this crisis, we cannot say it's come to the end of the crisis, because we don't know when that the COVID-19 will be imported from other country into your country.
So we could only call it a success when the whole world has contained the COVID. And its impact on the economy compared to a financial crisis is even greater. The forecast for global economic growth is minus 0.1. It's made up by IMF. In 2008, there was a financial crisis. In 2009, we had a 1.1% growth. First, there was a sharp decline, and G20 was established to promote dialogue, to promote economic growth. In 2009, it was not a negative growth. This time, the forecast is negative 4.4%, and Japan is no exception. For China, is the only bright spot. It had reopened rapidly in Q1. It was a negative growth. Q2 and Q3, we see positive growth from January to September. There is a positive growth of 0.7%. I believe for the whole year, China could reach a 2% positive growth as forecasted by many globally. And the pandemic, to achieve positive economic growth, China is the only country. Another point is the ratio of Chinese economy. Many people say that Chinese economy is larger than Japan, but we do not know to what extent. Of course, it's related to the exchange rates. In 2021, the size of Chinese economy could reach 15 trillion US dollar, and Japanese economy is 5 trillion, so it's a triple. And in 2027, Chinese economy should reach the US economy. Going forward, how should Japan maintain a positive growth and in the economic growth to maintain its leading role for the US, for Japan, for Europe, for any country? In the view of economists, it will have a big impact. I have 2 points in this regard. Number one, in 2009, China adopted a very active stimulus policy to guide the world economic recovery. At that time, the stimulative policy focused on public infrastructure construction. It does not mean 100% positive. Even today, there are a lot of bad loans as a result of that massive stimulative policy package. So we hope that China will not overdo it. We should have a stable economic policy. Secondly, prior to the COVID, we see structural changes compared to the quantitative growth. We need to launch new investment policy to deal with the new economic development model. I hope China could play a leading role in this regard. Let's give the floor to China side. Madam Yao, would you Mr. Yao, would you please respond? Today's world, indeed, we are facing the rising trade protectionism, unilateralism, and de-globalization. We can say that unilateralism, trade protectionism, and de-globalization poses great damage to the world economy. I believe that from Adam Smith, the basic principle for the economy, the division of labor, comparative advantage, and the comparative cost, and the endowments, from division to regional economic integration to the global globalization. This is the economic law. in terms of the law, any politicians, maybe for a period of time, it would hurt the economic law, but it cannot fundamentally overthrow the law. For human society, in terms of economic development, economic globalization is the prevailing trend. Let's go back to look at the COVID. The COVID has posed a great shock to the world economy. I believe the pandemic is not the main trend. Health should be the dominant trend for human society. Although we see trade protectionism, unilateralism, and deglobalization, however, ultimately, our human society will go back to cooperation, development, regional economic cooperation, and economic globalization. Japanese friend talked about Chinese economy. Indeed, we are facing the unprecedented COVID. In Q1, that was the negative 6.8%. That's the lowest point since we started GDP reporting. In Q4, we have turned it to positive 0.7%. By Q4, we will register 5%. And for the whole year, as the Japanese friend has said, for the whole year, we could maintain 2% positive growth. If we could achieve a 2% growth this year, that means of all the major economies, China will be the only one maintaining positive growth. In the last few years, the contribution from China to the world economy is around 30%. This year, Chinese contribution to the world economy would be increased. We know that we are working on the 14th five-year plan. The 14th five-year plan will determine the strategic guideline for the future development. The 14th five-year plan, fundamentally, we will drive economic globalization and drive regional integration. And we will promote more regional and bilateral collaboration. I will stop here. Let's give the floor back to Japanese side. Okay. Let's give the floor to Mr. Kawano, the Chief of Staff of the Self-Defense Force in terms of security. What is the direction of security in Asia Pacific? Number one, for China with its economic growth since, particularly since the late 1980s, China witnessed rapid economic growth. China's POA mainly dominated by the infantry. Now we see rapid growth of its navy. I fully understand that point with economic development, and it's natural to grow the navy. UK, the Netherlands, Japan did the same to protect our maritime rights, or to guarantee the lifelines in the ocean. I fully understand that. However, we need to abide by one rule by international law, that is the free navigation. That is the basic norm in international law. By abiding by the same principle, the same value, we could promote free navigation and trade, the free and open Indo-Pacific idea. I don't think it's aimed at the BII. Unfortunately, we can see the free and open Indo-Pacific strategy. Free navigation is the fundamental principle. The Chinese activities seems run contrary to that. If we could share this universal value, China could also join this open and free Indo-Pacific strategy. Second point, under the pandemic, US, Australia, we see more intense relations with China. And the response of China to the pandemic, we see closer collaboration amongst Japan, US, and Australia. I hope China could see that as well. Thank you. It seems many experts want to share their views. Let's give the floor to Chinese side. Madam Yao, I would like to thank the organizer to inviting me to attend this very important Tokyo-Beijing forum. In the first session, we talk about international landscape and where is the world heading. I believe since the Cold War, from the unipolar or the one superpower and the multiple powers, we are leading and going to multiple power centers. However, the multipolar development doesn't mean we will see a division or chaos in the world. In particular, I do not think there will be a division of the two poles or to see the Cold War like what happened between US and the Soviet Union. In the multipolar world, whether the peace is more fragile or more robust determines whether we could improve the existing international architecture to build the mechanism to maintain world peace and regional peace so that there is more check and balance. For example, how to address the nuclear issue and peace in the Korean Peninsula. We had a 4-party and a 6-party these dialogue mechanisms during President Trump's administration. They also tried top-down summit meeting to address the issue. However, what kind of compound mechanism could ultimately address the issue? Japan and China, how can we coordinate our roles with regard to the Korean Peninsula? In China and the US, there is a military competition in the West Pacific. China is concerned that the US would interfere in the Taiwan issue. The US is concerned that China would develop AD and A2. The AD and A2 in the first island chain to diminish the dominance of US military. The competition between US and China in the military field seems has a taste of geopolitics. For China and Japan, there are territorial disputes, and in Taiwan and South China Sea hot issues, they might get involved in the military conflict between China and the US. How can we enhance mutual trust and diminish the possibility of a military conflict? I believe that are the issues worthy of discussion in the forum. And earlier, Mr. Kawano said China development used to focus on infantry. Now we focus on the Navy and the Air Force, and that is to be understood. However, China didn't abide by the free navigation and other international norms. I don't fully agree with that because free navigation is highly valued in China because China is the largest shipbuilding country, biggest trading power. Free navigation, its importance to China is tantamount to China. This free navigation architecture, the Japan, Australia, India, other countries, including our case, they have a different understanding of free navigation with the Biden administration. We don't know how would they deal with the legacy issues. We are also concerned that in the Indo-Pacific, the new security mechanism, the Quad mechanism, what kind of a role Japan will play in the Quad? For China, that is attracted a lot of concern. How to safeguard the regional security and the global security? We need to pay attention to our security concerns, respective security concerns to address the misunderstanding through dialogue. I will stop here.
So the two officials who are all former senior officials in the military, and we don't have time to expand. Now, next, let's enter into the second question: what kind of world do we want to build post-epidemic? So, shall we give the floor to Japan side first? Thank you. The international situation is changing. United States and China relations are also very severe. So the world is developing a multipolar direction. So as under this direction, I would say, what can we do? What kind of world do we want to build post-epidemic? And in order to achieve this objective, what can be done? How can we endeavor to achieve that? So I think centering upon this, let's start discussion. We will give the floor to Ms. Kishida first. Just now, we talked about what kind of divisions the international community is facing have been discussed. And the universal value of freedom and democracy has been challenged. So after the pandemic, this may continue. As for the vaccines, so how the vaccines can be distributed. So the distribution vaccine is very important. Otherwise, such division will be further divided. So under this big trend, we need to think that we are fighting for the COVID-19 pandemic. So environmental issues, energy issues, peaceful issues, all these are common issues that we are facing globally. So regardless of which big power trying to take some responsibilities alone, it's not enough just by one country. It should be joined. Every country should join hands together. That is what I deeply felt about. So the pandemic response, environmental issues are bigger challenges that all of us are facing. So once again, I'd like to reiterate that the multilateralism is necessary, is essential. So I hope that this kind of thinking can be accepted and understood by more people. That's one of my expectations. In the meantime, Japan also need to discuss and the multilateralism to how to solve those global issues and take our due responsibility and leadership to explore how to build the rules that So Mr. Tamaki also mentioned about economic recovery. So East Asia region really lay a very good foundation for global economic development. So TPP and other PPAs and other relevant regional economic agreements are have been taking place. So we are counting 60% of the economic and trade circles globally. And 15 countries have signed IECP agreement to foster the economic and trade development. So on the basis of that, everyone had paid great effort to make that happen. And I hope that in the future we can follow that path. And during the pandemic response, it's not only posing challenges for the economy, but also challenges to education and other sectors. That's including the challenges, threats for the human health and others. So there is big impact to so many sectors. Such impacts, as I mentioned, negative impact. This is really a harsh reality. So because of this situation, how we can do better to do more equitable distribution of vaccines are more important. So we need more collaboration in this regard. We are opening collaborations in all around the ways. It's quite important for me. For example, SDG and sustainable development, the objectives of sustainable development goals by United Nations. This is also the area we should pay more attention to, that we need to enhance our collaboration in so many different aspects. So from this perspective, I think that this is the right perspective to view our current common challenges. So I hope that we all can discuss how we can lead the world from this division and work out of this kind of division. So I think that this is the right attitude, and then we can make our due contribution. Thank you. And then let's give the floor to the Chinese side. International order. So what we need to do in the future, then we need to look at the existing orders. We should maintain that. But new things are happening, new issues like the distribution of vaccine. And this requires a new order. It's just like programs and applications on computers. By using so many years, we need to have updates for those programs and applications. So vaccine distribution is one of the issues. So now let's give the floor to Chinese side. Mr. Chen. As for the second topic, what kind of world do we want to build post-pandemic? I would say that currently we are still in the situation of epidemic response. It's still the crucial period. China has achieved some strategic results out of this, but we cannot take ease. We should still be cautious because the pandemic is spreading across countries in different forms. So regarding this topic, the pandemic is a common challenge faced by humanity. The pandemic doesn't know ideologies or understand anything about politics. This is like jokingly to say, it knows no boundary. It knows no race either. So this is really a common challenge faced by all humankind. We need to work together. So we need to enhance more cooperation in this regard. As I mentioned earlier, that the R&D of vaccine, for this regard, China has invested a lot. And I've heard there are 4 to 5 types of vaccines entering into the batch of the earliest possible vaccine that's going to be used. So And China has also joined the WHO sponsored mechanism to be a responsible country. So we are being responsible in R&D of vaccine, in distribution, and in the utilization of vaccines. And we are taking many collaborations with many countries in this regard. And then if we're looking at post-COVID-19 world, what should be done? During the opening ceremony of the forum, some experts has already mentioned that the winter will always go behind us, spring will always come. So this is a spirit that we need to think about what we can do for the post-COVID-19 world. So as for what can be done, I think it definitely requires collaboration between countries. And just now, experts also mentioned about sustainable development, as well as visions and forecasts of future. I think that for this is the unanimous understanding among several countries, including Japan, China, and others, so that we can reach the carbon neutrality by the middle of this century. Because we need to play our own roles and take our own responsibilities for the world, for the common greater good. And we need to do more consideration and thinking about the public health discourse. So how can we quickly recover the personnel exchanges between countries? And regarding this, China, Japan has already kicked off the rapid and fast track system of its personnel exchange today. So it's this kind of the fast track is taking place face by face, and it will be inducive for the collaboration of the two countries in different aspects. Especially next year, Japan will hold the Tokyo Olympic Games, while China will hold the Winter Olympics in 2021. So facing all these big issues, China and Japan, we need to deepen our cooperation. Besides, we also need to have more cooperation in the work and production reception. China, Japan, our economic are integrated and intertwined. So there are a lot of things need to be done in those areas. That's all. Thank you. Next, let's give the floor to the Japanese side. Okay. Let's continue to the third subproject. Let's give the floor to Mr. Tamaki. What do you think that what needs to be done for the world in the future? Mr. Kishida has mentioned that the world is heading toward multipolar direction and devised direction. So we are facing this global issue. I think there are two kinds of issues. First is climate change, or the globalization of such COVID-19 pandemic. And these are the common challenges faced by the whole world. Therefore, definitely we need to have global collaboration. On the other hand, most countries or all countries in the world, they are facing another common structural changes. For example, population dynamics is changing. China's labor population is decreasing. Japan has already had these changes in the 1990s, and the total population in Japan is also decreasing. So the labor population is decreasing, and this is also the common challenge faced by all countries in the world. Another side is about digitalization. Japan is also discussing this and actively involved in this. So including central banks like China's central bank has already started some INDs and verifications of digital currency. So then it may lead the development of this. The next issue is about the infectious diseases, and lastly, about the common issue faced by both China and Japan. That is the biggest challenge. That is how to get out of the fossil fuel energy mix.
By 2060, we want to reach zero carbon emission. If we want to describe a roadmap that is amazing challenge from 2030 to 2060, China might see a massive economic restructuring, which would have a profound impact on the economy. We should be prepared for that. The same applies for Japan. By 2050, Japan wants to realize zero carbon emission. The social structure, economic structure over the last decade will be retransformed. That is a severe challenge for all of us. From that perspective, China and Japan and all the other countries in the world, we are facing severe challenges for the social and economic development. That's a new challenge. You have made that point. Let's give the floor back to Chinese side. Earlier, I said that next year we will start the 14th five-year plan. 14th five-year plan for China, it symbolizes that China's economic development has reached a new stage. During the 14th five-year plan period, our key task is to build a new development pattern. The new development pattern means we focus on the domestic circulation and to have a mutually reinforcing dual economic circulation. It's determined by the fact that China has reached into a new development stage. During the 14th five-year plan period, the new development stage, what are the feature or the comparative advantage? We know for any country, its economic development strategy should be built on its comparative advantages. Chinese economy, following 4 decades of reform and opening up, the largest comparative advantage is the massive domestic market. We have a 1.4 billion population. Next year, they would reach the well-off in all respects. The middle income population would reach 400 million, which is more people than the whole population in the US. In 2078, urbanization rate is 18%, and now it's 60%. By 2035, the urbanization in China, each year we will increase by 1%. That means by 2035, urbanization in China could reach 75 to 80%. If we put all these factors together, that forms the biggest comparative advantage, that is the massive domestic market and the immense demand potential. Following 4 decades of development, our primary conflict has also changed. 4 decades ago, we were still suffering to have enough to eat and enough clothes. Nowadays, the primary contradiction is to meet the ever-increasing needs of Chinese people for a better life. I said many times, 1.4 billion people that have reached a modest prosperity, they want to enjoy a better life for a country, for a nation. That is the fundamental intrinsic economic driver. Last year, we had 40 trillion RMB of social retail that equals the amount in the US by 14th five-year plan. China's retail market will be largest in the world. Facing such a massive domestic market and immense demand for consumption, the focus of the economy should focus on meeting the domestic demand to help people realize a better life. To meet such a kind of massive domestic demand, we cannot do it by ourselves. The international circulation is the base. We need reinforcing by the two domestic and international circulation with such a comparative advantage. I believe the economic and trade ties between China and Japan has a great potential. In the 14th five-year, when we in the process of reaching the second centenary goal, China and Japan is highly complementary. Our supply chain and industrial chain is highly integrated. We know that we are open to the whole world. In Shanghai, we have hosted 3 import expo 3 years in a row. Japanese enterprises have been very active in those import expos. Going forward, to make the domestic demand a pillar for the economic growth, we need to open to the world. Firstly, for Japan, for the Japanese business sector, that should offer you a great opportunity for further development. I will stop here. Let's give the floor back to our Japanese friends. All right, so let's give the floor to Mr. Kawano to talk about where the world is heading. How should we play a role in this process? Is there a major power competition or peaceful coexistence? Of course, I believe should be peaceful coexistence. In security, from a national defense perspective, Japan-China relations, we have restored to the right track. In terms of the defensive exchanges, we have not resumed to the normal track. Diaoyu Island was nationalized by Japan. Prior to that, we had military-to-military visits and high-level mutual visits by the two militaries at various levels. We had exchange programs. However, following the nationalization of Diaoyu Island by Japanese government, such kind of exchange programs were put on hold. That is not good. And there were a lot of skirmishes between the Chinese vessels and the Japanese self-defense vessels. There were a lot of the question marks and the lack of trust between the two sides. How can we take the military-to-military or defensive exchange back on track is a bigger question. We have sea, air, communication mechanism. It has 3 parts. Number 1 is the hotline for the deployment. Number 2 is the exchanges of the grassroots. Number 3 is regularly we will review whether these mechanisms are working. So we will have regular meetings. I believe the third one is critical. that is the regular exchanges and reviews. I take this opportunity not only for the air, sea communication mechanism in defense department, we should have more frequent exchanges and dialogue. So far we do not have not made a great progress, but going forward, we hope that amongst the two defense department, we should have more exchanges. I will stop here. In terms of security, how should we deal with that? That's the view from Mr. Kawano. Now the floor is back to Chinese friends. Madame Yao, please. Thank you, Mr. Zhao. I would like to respond to the suggestion made by Mr. Kawano. I basically agree with Mr. Kawano on his views that going forward, it will be coexistence instead of a conflict. But there is a premise. The premise is we need to manage our respective security issues and not make those security or military issues to result in crisis or conflict. Both sides have reached the important consensus that is we want to be partners and pose no threats to each other. I also took a note that during the survey, the Chinese people, 50% of Chinese believe Japan is a military threat, and in the US, in the Japan, 63% of Japanese believe China poses a threat. So there is a lot for us to do to eliminate such a kind of views. That means we need to engage in more candid, more frequent communications and dialogue so that we could resume negotiation and dialogues to serve its purpose. We should frequently use the hotlines and to resume mutual visits to repeatedly make clear what is your intent, particularly with regard to major military and security actions to offer explanations. For example, China building the military force, Japanese has a lot of questions. For Japan, it's engaged in national defense program and review and amend to the midterm military development. For China, it has its concerns. All this need to be addressed through dialogue, particularly in the high-level dialogue to offer each other explanations. I believe for the self-defense force and the POA, we should resume and add more exchanges and dialogue with regard to the territorial disputes. I don't think it will be resolved in one go. However, we should enhance crisis management. Within this year, we will open this sea-air communication mechanism. In December, we have the new round of Sino-Japan Maritime Affairs consultation, which would help to prevent and manage the crisis with increasing trust. We should consider to establish more levels of direct communication mechanisms and discuss the necessary principles and procedures to prevent and manage the potential crisis if there is any. In the multilateral field, there are a lot of areas for collaborate with the Biden administration. It might repair the Trump administration's damage to the international arms control and the disarmament system. China and Japan could engage in collaboration to repair this international arms control mechanism. Thank you.
It's our turn. Thank you. So we have discussed on the two subtopics just now. Now, the world situation as well as our objective, we have talked about that. On top of that, so what needs to be done by China, Japan, and what are those specifically? So what kind of collaboration we can carry forward? So let's talk about the ideal way of cooperation and collaboration. Though it's going maybe very hard, but I still hope that everyone can have a candid and honest discussion and sharing with us your ideas. Mr. Kishida, we talked about free trade and environmental issues. And we all mentioned that international coordination is very important. Multilateralism holds the key as well. So first of all, China, Japan, as the second and third largest economies, we are quite important for the prosperity of the world. So facing all these global scale subjects, we not only need to discuss on multilateralism, but also need to join hands and face challenges together. So that's the attitude we should have for collaboration between China and Japan. Additionally, the bilateral relations between China and Japan requires more candid and open exchange of ideas. For Japan, the freedom, democracy, human rights are all universal values for us. So based on those universal values, Mr. Kawano mentioned that there are different subjects on the securities and defense. So as for from Japan's side, we also would like to express what's on our minds. Only by doing so can we calmly discuss how we can have a long-term stable relationship between two of us. Additionally, in the multilateral diplomacy, we also should play our roles of China-Japan. What's more is important is that the public of our two countries, their sentiments, their feeling towards each other are important. So the latest survey of public opinion organized by Niyong NPO and others. So based on the results of the survey, we can see that China and Japan, the public of the two countries actually have some different understandings and sentiment toward each other. So from the public opinion perspective, from this level, we also need more exchanges between people to people. So through all these specific practices, can we have improved and enhanced the collaboration between China and Japan? That's all. Thank you. Thank you very much. You mentioned about public opinion survey and its importance. Now next, let's give the floor to Chinese side. So as for what kind of collaboration we can have between China and Japan, I'd like to share a few words. The first, as you mentioned that before the start of this forum, the two sides has organized a joint survey of public opinions. So I've also read the results, and it has reflected the current understanding and recognition between each other, as well as some issues. Especially because since the spring of this year and the outbreak of pandemic, each of us are spending more time at home. Although we are staying more time at home, but it gives us more time to think and to reflect. So I feel that the public, the people in China, Japan, their understanding towards the other country has a new round of differences or imbalances. It's been reflected in the latest results of survey. For example, we had this data in the past that Chinese people, their understanding towards towards Japan's society, the main channel is over percent from press, while the Japanese people, they learn about China, the major channel accounting 90% is coming from the media. So from this number, you can see that the accurate and objective reportings by the media of each other country is very important, and they should play their due role. And additionally, people are always thinking how to deal with each other, because the neighbor is quite big and it's ever increasingly growing. So as for the answer to this question, I think we need to enhance more face-to-face communication exchanges whenever possible. And Japanese side just mentioned that in the past years or after this pandemic, that there is a discrepancy of the public opinion towards each other. And also mentioned about the security, military security, mutual trust. I feel that during my period as a Chinese ambassador to Japan, so after 2011, the 2/3 of time of the first 5 to 6 years, that was the most difficult time during China-Japan relations. And there were so many issues that lead to the mutual distrust to each other in so many aspects. So both sides, we need to learn the lesson from the past, from the history, and should work together on the recovery of mutual trust. China, Japan as neighbors, we cannot relocate, right? We are neighbors. And this is a fact. This is objective fact. And in one of the past events, I stated that, do you have any disagreement on this? That China-Japan's relation, its importance is not going to be changed because of someone or because some different ideologies, right? Do you agree on that or not? I asked this question. So that is the importance of our ties. So do you think it's important or not, right? That is the key question. So we need to be seriously and objectively to view this question and enhance our mutual understanding and mutual trust. And as for the military part, as Mr. Kawano just mentioned, that there are less high-level exchanges on this regard. But we had multiple exchanges with the Japanese organization Zhongzhikan. So China, it's an organization dedicated for China-Japan relations. So, and this organization is headed by former military senior officials. And other mechanisms like the sea, sky, and also high-level exchanges of the military officials. I hope that all these mechanisms can be recovered very soon. And through this, I hope that we can enhance our understanding and mutual trust. Thank you. Mr. Chen was the former Chinese ambassador to Japan for 9 years. So I'd like to jump in. Although China and Japan's public opinion survey showed the result is kind of concerning us, but we also need to look at the areas that is not covered by the survey. I had lots of close contact from university level. I found that different universities, they have quite a high momentum or high enthusiasm about the research of China-Japan relations. Tokyo University, Fukuda University, they have the research institute on Japan. And we also have the China-Japan Research Center. So you see that all these organizations, all these centers, they are so willing to involve in the research and enhancing of China-Japan relations. These people, over the 30 years to come, have never interrupted their continued efforts. I'm proud to say the Beijing-Tokyo Forum has never been stopped in the past 16 years. So all these people, they are experts, they are academics, and they have big dreams for our country and for our neighbors. So I hope that both sides can join more China-Japan events that are organized by the University Research Centers for China-Japan Relations and other events, so that we can spread our ideas and spread what we believe, and then this can make positive changes. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Zhao Qizhen. Thank you for your speech. I feel like comes to the end of our plenary meeting. But before that, we still have one last more important topic. Let's give the floor to Mr. Tamaki. That if we look back to the middle of 20th century, middle and the late of middle 20th century, so what world was pursuing Western countries and headed by United States. After that, Japan and Australia and other countries, they have the efforts to pursue a better life for their people. This can be seen in different countries. So for those well-off countries and developed countries, how they become rich, how they get rich, where they find their answers, then they can tell their answers experience to other countries. So we always been following this kind of process. But in the recent years, as I mentioned earlier, that we met some structural changing issues, and those changes are dynamic. They are changing, like carbon dioxide emission, the greenhouse effect, and the global pandemic, and all these issues. These issues we haven't found answers to these issues yet. Mr. Zhao Qizhen from China side just mentioned that we have a pursuit of a better life, of a beautiful life. We haven't found answers to this question or to this topic yet, but actually this answer not only need to be provided by developed countries, but also like explored by emerging markets and developing companies. So countries like China and Japan, so from our perspective, how we can build a new social and economic system, we need to try to test, to find that. And what kind of policies and what kind of action we need to take from the business, from people's levels, perspectives, which can be suitable for the new social and economic structure. So all these questions need to be tried, need to be explored. Although we had so many failures in the past, but we still have different new attempts and efforts. For example, China is trying to do more digitalization. And so based on our experience, we are not only pursuing a better life for ourselves, but also need to help and assist other countries. We need a new version or update the version of how to do that. So that is one of the important topics between China-Japan relations. Thank you very much. The globalization, We need to find answers for the globalization, and this is the area where China and Japan need to work together. And let's give the floor to Chinese side. I quite agree with what the Japanese expert just said, that the fundamental driven force of humanity and society development is a pursuit by humans for a better life. So over the 100 years, in China, we haven't get out of the poverty yet, and there are some people still living in the poverty.
Over the last century, our goal is to eliminate poverty, to realize the well of society in all respects. From next year, we will be pursuing the second centenary goal in the 2040s and the 50s. We want to meet the needs of the general public for a better life. To meet their needs for a better life. And this big topic for China and Japan business, we would see a great potential for the Shanghai Import-Expo. I visited twice. We see a lot of agreements on the high tech and the machinery, and secondly, a lot of agreements are signed in the food sector. Japan enjoys great advantage in this regard. We forecast in the next decade, the total import for China will reach $22 trillion. I believe Japan, of this $22 trillion market, Japan could have a big share. In terms of collaboration, we are indeed facing the aging of the demographics. Aging society comes very quickly in China. We need to learn from countries with more experience. Number one, we think of Japan, to learn from Japan. We know aging in Japan is more severe. However, Japan has a lot of effective ways to deal with it. In the Japanese, we know there is a word called the silver-haired economy. How can we, instead of taking it as a burden, instead it could drive the economic development? For a better life means everyone needs to be healthy. I visited Japan multiple times, and I'm very impressed by your health industry, which is greatly deserving that China could learn from your side. So I believe in the health industry, in the care of elderly, there is such a big potential for us to work together. In the forum, we talk about world economy, Sino-Japan ties. In the next pursuit for the centenary goal, there is 30 years to go. It offers great potential for Sino-Japan economic collaboration. That's work together to achieve common development. I will stop here. Let's give the floor back to our Japanese friends. All right. The last speaker for the third topic, let's give the floor to Mr. Kawano. How to grow and develop Sino-Japan ties? We need effort from both sides. We need mutual effort. This is a forum for open discussion. We talked about the results of the survey. The general public in Japan, their sentiment towards the Chinese, we see higher ratio of disapproval or unfavorable opinion against the Chinese actions around the Diaoyu Island, despite how media reported that is a fact. When I was serving in the army, I realized the Chinese action is upgrading. That is a fact we need to acknowledge and recognize that it will not have any positive impact on the Japan-China ties. Madam Yao talked about exchanges between POA and defensive self-defense force for the veterans that was also suspended when to resume it. That is an important area. That's my point. Okay, let's give the floor back to the Chinese friends. Madam Yao, the U.S.-China relation and its impact on the Sino-Japanese ties, whether U.S. and China doing well, it will have impact on the neighborhood in the past. For those who develop good relations about both U.S. and China, is a common wish for those countries in the neighborhood, and it's also the best choice for them. If U.S. and China could maintain good relations, the neighboring countries would be easier to choose to maintain friendly ties with both sides. I want to say that China will not provoke any crisis with the U.S. and force other countries to choose sides. According to the survey, we see that about 50% of both China and the U.S. Respondents said that the bad Sino-U.S. relationship has a detrimental impact on the Sino-Japanese ties. The deteriorating bilateral relationship is what welcomed by Japanese side. Japanese want to create the atmosphere to improve the U.S.-China ties. I fully support what Mr. Fukuda has said in the opening remarks. I believe both Sino-U.S. and the Sino-Japanese ties are very important for China. We will not sacrifice our core interest because we are in a bad relation with the U.S. to develop our ties with Japan. And if we have a good relation with U.S., China will not be tougher against Japan. In 1972, China and the U.S. restored the diplomatic relations prior to the Sino-U.S. Diplomatic relationship setting. Whether the ties between China and Japan and China and the U.S. should follow its own logic. It's determined by our judgment on the long-term interest. I believe that within the bilateral framework between China and Japan, we should develop our bilateral ties instead of bringing external relations to this bilateral tie and obstructing the normal development of the bilateral ties. Japan would like to play a positive role between U.S.-China relations. I believe that serves the interests of the three countries. And Mr. Chen would like to make some additional comments. Thank you. Japanese friend mentioned the Diaoyu Island issue. I would like to respond to that. Indeed, the people in both countries are closely following this issue since it touches upon the territorial sovereignty. Any responsible country will not step back from that. Chinese firm position is territorial, is inalienable part of our territory. Japanese government has its position. We should understand that in 1972, during the normalization of the bilateral tie, both leaders talked about it. In 1978, when we signed a treaty on friendship, both leaders talked about that, and our diplomats also talked about that. The conclusion, there are differences whether both sides reached we shelf this dispute. There are differences of understanding. At least we talk about it later. We acknowledge there is an issue, but we will deal with it later. That is one consensus. Number two, in 2012, in particular, Mr. Japanese government administration then nationalized it. It has been the main factor resulted in the worsening ties between China and Japan. In 2014, in November, both sides reached the four principal consensus, focusing on those disagreements. We need to manage the disputes instead of letting it to affect the improvement of the bilateral ties. On top of that, over the years, both sides have reached established mechanisms for dialogue, as mentioned by both sides, like the high-level maritime dialogue and sea, maritime and air liaison mechanism. We need to manage those disputes and keep it from interfering and affecting the bilateral ties. We need to focus on the bigger picture and the future to think about how to further develop the bilateral ties. Thank you. It seems, may I? Ambassador Chen has mentioned, made some points. I would like to make some rebuttals. Any points from our Japanese panelists? Mr. Zhao, can I make a wrap up? Then I will give you the floor to wrap up. We want to conclude by 12:30 Japanese time. All in all, Japan and China need to make a greater contribution to the world. That's one consensus. Mr. Fukuda, in his keynote speech, mentioned that to contribute to the global community and to take our responsibility, that would mean a financial burden. Both sides fully understands and are committed to contributing to the world. As Mr. Chen mentioned, the Diaoyu Island, the interpretation of this issue for Japan, we have a different understanding. I would like to make this point clear. We talked about nationalize it in Japan. Japan, based upon its domestic law, from we procured ownership from a private person. That's our understanding of the so-called nationalizing the Diaoyu Island. We have 2 minutes and 30 seconds from Mr. Zhao, the Chinese moderator. We have a theme for this forum. Apparently, this is a very good beginning. We focus on the key points and engaged in very open and candid discussion. We agreed on some points and disagree on other points. We made our positions very clear. The issues we are facing is different from the previous 15 forums because the world is undergoing change. There is a inclination to only take care of one yourself. Some global leaders, as well as US, we see this nationalism and populism, which will result in the incorrect public opinion. And according to Miyamoto, there is the grassroots public opinion. It might hijack political direction if we cannot manage it well. We are not the grassroots, we are not the top leader, we are in the middle, so we could play a more important role. These issues that we have not fully discussed, we still have opportunity to discuss them in the breakout sessions. That should conclude the morning session. Thank you very much. As Mr. Zhao has said, we have made a good start. I believe you still have a lot to share. So the show is just started. Let's put our hands together to show our appreciation to the panelists on the podium. We will have a break for 1 hour. At 12:30, we will have the breakout session on the diplomacy and the public health. Now it's lunch break. Thank you very much.